Welcome, residents, to another session of Talk of the Town with Supervisor Dick Thurston, as we try to cover a number of different areas of interest for our community, whether it's in the context of events that are forthcoming, or also when we look at what our staff members are doing on a daily basis to look after the overall interest of the community. In that regard, today I'm very fortunate to have Susan Deo, here, with me, and Sue has been a very important part of our what we call building department, but basically relating to maintaining the safety and health of our community through our, basic code enforcement department. I'll get Susan to just give a little bit of background on herself, but we want to talk and share with you some of the things that are going on. We've had Barbara Roberti here and Judith Sabriz before, so Sue, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly, who you are and how long you've been doing this, and what this is.
Okay, thank you. My name is Susan Deo. I am the building inspector here for the town of Wappinger. I've been here almost 21 years and have done every job in the building department, from deputy zoning all the way up to the head building inspector. And I loved my job. And I liked working with the residents and contractors and to try to just make this town safe. I live in the town of Wappinger, and I want to treat everybody like I would want to be treated myself. So it's all about safety and getting compliance and making things legal.
I think I first met Sue before I became supervisor, when we were building new property over on Wheeler Hill Road.
That's correct.
And one of the aspects of what we've been doing well before me, but certainly have exemplified, I think, during my 6 years, has been, if a problem arises, then Susan and the rest of the team are here to really help. But why don't you give a brief overview of some of the types of issues that you deal with on a daily basis?
So issues that we deal with, well, first it starts with somebody that just wants to build something or have a renovation in their house, put up a shed, a pool, so on. It requires a building permit, and we walk the residents through the process of what they need to do to go from the beginning to the end. And it's all about safety is our number one concern. And we also have issues where there are complaints, violations, vacant houses that we want secured. Our responders have to know if there's anything going on with some houses that might be dangerous for them. So we try to monitor it and let everybody know what's going on in terms of if we post it unsafe, or if a house doesn't have electricity, residents can't stay in there, and then we have to try to figure out what to do to help them get back in as soon as possible. There's a numerous amount of issues that go on in the town on a daily basis. Could be about stormwater. It could be just violations.
Well, so stormwater brings up an interesting topic. We've had really a specialist water artist that's been really amazing in that, and we as a community are members of the MS4 groups. Sue is actually our officer responsible for that, but people don't realize that the town of Wappinger is very much wetlands.
Yeah.
And so what is done is to try to preserve those so that we don't have additional problems that happen when the aquifers get saturated. So just maybe briefly describe, you take a project. I know there's a small development going on Myers Corner Road. What is involved from a stormwater point of view?
I'm the stormwater management officer, and I protect the wetlands, and based on approved plot plans and subdivisions, erosion control has to be up. It's the black silt fencing you would see if you drive by. And that protects the other properties and any water nearby from mud and illicit discharges. And we monitor that constantly to make sure that the water stays on the property that they're doing in the mud, and that If anything is not being done correctly and the erosion control comes down, I am out there to make sure the contractors reinstall it and keep it up as per our approved plot plans and subdivisions.
So we have a lot of documentation, I guess, books. So the books that you're seeing are basically our, plans,
That's
that we
correct, yeah.
file annually, that Sue and Walter and all of us keep an eye on, that really helps to preserve and protect the environment overall. Yeah, talking about, earlier you mentioned vacant houses. Recently I've gotten some inquiries, people watch our board meetings, and our town board, did some legislation with respect to that in support of the request of, the department in which Sue's from. I think Judith Sabriz was the code enforcement, individual that was taking the lead on it, but the whole group really works on it. And, there were 4 properties that Sue mentioned about health and safety. So give an example, perhaps, of what was involved with those properties. When it comes to our attention, then what we did and why did we do it at the board level?
So that we have a few properties that weren't being maintained. They were actually considered almost dangerous, holes in roofs, and it doesn't look good for the neighbors to see this. It's unsafe for children in the area. Animals can get into the house, make it worse. And we had to give violation letters, but if the homeowner is not able to respond back to us, then we bring it to the town board, which is very helpful in helping us with compliance and trying to either secure the house or if the house needs to even be demolished. They protect us. We're protecting the neighborhoods.
So, in the case of these 4 houses, there is also a significant concern about if a fire should break out, if something should happen, we make sure that we don't get any people that occupy it without, permission or approval
Yes.
of the property owners. But, real concern is if one of our police officers or firemen have to go in there for some rescue or to put out a fire, that their lives aren't exposed.
I agree. We have to protect them because they're protecting us.
Now, what's happened in those cases, as well as others that have come up, is in fact, as a result of our communication with the residents, they've reached out. And, the department has worked with them and maybe just mention the process, generally. Even what you have to, what you also do in other properties if an issue comes up.
So the process originally first starts with us doing a site visit. We go out, we take a lot of pictures. We try to assess the issue. We send a notice of violation to the homeowner and hope for a response, and then we can try to work with them. And if it's a vacant house, we try to get them to board it up to at least protect it from the neighborhood. So the children, like I myself when I was a kid, would have went into these houses. But it's not safe. And like Mr. Thurston said, fires can happen, and these houses are so old and so not well kept that they can go up in a flame, and then it's not safe for our first responders.
Right.
So we then went to the town board and see if we can get permission to have them approved to get it for demolition with our engineers and everybody involved. There's a lot of people that are involved in this process.
Including banks, and
Everybody,
everybody.
yeah,
but we've had excellent response, and in fact, every one of the houses it has been attended to. I think maybe one where there's demolition permit. Others are working on how to,
Yes.
improve the structures, maybe partial demolition.
Yeah, if an engineer,
as well.
we ask for engineer reports
Right.
to see if it is something that's salvageable, and then we need the engineer to certify and show us what they need to do to make the repairs. We ask for a building permit, and we do all their inspections.
What's the role of the fire inspector? The Howie Prager, so maybe mention what they do, because Susan also has responsibilities in this area as well, supporting it as being the #1 ranked, inspector in our town.
Thank you. Our fire inspector is very knowledgeable and works a lot with commercial properties, make sure all the businesses are up to date on their fire escape routes, their portable fire extinguishers, sprinklers, fire alarms, for the safety of the residents that are going into these stores. And he also does furnaces and oil tanks and anything that's related to the fire code. So together we work we work together to try to, again, everything is about safety. Smoke alarms, fire extinguishers, CO detectors, and Howie Prager is very knowledgeable in all of that.
Yeah. No, extremely. And we work with also when there's events that are being planned to make sure that they meet fire code.
Right,
and
for the access for fire trucks.
Yeah, and for example, when we have our Community Day event, one of our more popular events within Community Day celebration is the bonfire.
Oh, yeah.
And so COSM, thanks to the Church of Sacred Mirrors team, they work very closely with Howie Prager and New Hackensack Firehouse to make sure that that is safe, just like our fireworks display.
Correct,
and
yes.
walk
There's a lot of people involved.
A lot of people.
Behind the scenes, just to make it safe,
So, one of the questions that I get asked, well, what about town properties? But you inspect town properties
We
as
inspect
well. Why don't you
everything.
tell a little bit about Carnwath?
So Carnwath Farms has structures, buildings on there. We do inspections. We make sure they're up to date also on their fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, CO detectors. We are in and out of some of these buildings, and we also make everything safe. Building permits are required, even for the town. The town pulls building permits for anything they do in terms of electrical repairs and construction, renovations, anything that's done. They also get building permits, and I also go out and do the inspections to make sure everything is in compliance.
One last area and one last question is related to the fact that during maybe it was my first term, we passed an amendment to our town code that requires anybody that is in the process of selling their house now needs to have an inspection. Why don't you just mention what that process is? Because we do get a lot of people that are trying to sell the house, and you all will work with them, but just mention briefly for those that may not be aware of that requirement.
So if you're selling a house or refinancing, 9 out of 10 times there's a bank loan which then asks for an abstract company to request from us, is there any violations on the property? We then go out and walk the property on the outside to review and see if there's anything that needs a building permit or didn't have a building permit. And also if there's a sub pump and it's connected to the town sewer, we come into the house to just confirm that it's not piped into the town sewer. It needs to pipe out to the outside of the house and right into their property. And with that, if there is any violations, we give a letter, and the homeowner will then have to open a building permit to legalize something. Some people put up a shed and they don't think they need a building permit. It's best to confirm with our town building department to find out, and then we can issue them a building permit. It goes through zoning for setbacks. I go out and do a final inspection on it. If there's an electrical, we have third-party electrical inspection agencies, and then we can legalize that shed. So then the sale of the house can go through.
So, when you look at, the issues that come up on a daily basis, we have a great, team, particularly, two of our amazing clerks that sit there and, just call or come on in, walk in, and you don't need an appointment. Sometime in our busy seasons, it would be good. But if you're planning any DIY, programs, Ask first, because they'll be very helpful. They were very friendly, but they're extremely competent in what they do, and I can't thank the folks enough. They've made my 6 years really much easier, because it's removed some of the complaints that we've had, and it's concerns that people have about safety, health, and you talk about the one other point, one of the reasons why, if your basement floods and you're pumping it into the sewer system, our sewer handling process with Tri-Municipal is an older, system. And so we have what is called I&I. And that is when there is intrusion coming in, particularly during rainy periods of time. And that causes excessive overflows at time at the sewer plant, which can result in the sewage being dumped out into, unintentionally flooded out into the Hudson River or some of our pocket plants. So that's why we're very careful, because the state, the DEC, finds us if there's those sort of intrusions, and we're trying to make sure, again, that our waterways, which we're dependent on, not just for scenic beauty, but our major water fields are underneath. The aquifers for those go underneath both the Sprout Creek and the Wappingers Creek. The Hudson River actually provides a source of water for Poughkeepsie. There's a water board. We don't have to worry about that. But these are reasons why we again have a lot of these rules, regulations for the health and safety of the community. But I can't thank you enough, Sue, for coming in, talking with us today, and especially for what you and the department do for our community.
Thank you.
Thanks
We're
again.
happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Residents, I hope you found that informative. If you have any questions, please come on by the building department. You can also stop by my office and just ask some questions. Try to find out in advance so we can make your life a little bit easier as you go through the process. So thanks again. Thanks for watching today, and until soon, please stay safe and remain well. Thank you.